All funeral plans guarantee to cover the funeral director's costs as detailed in the plan, but not all funeral plans guarantee to cover the necessary third-party cremation or burial fees. To help your family avoid the rising costs for these third-party fees too, you have a couple of options. The first is to include cover for the cremation or burial fees in full. This type of funeral plan is known as a guaranteed funeral plan and means there'll be nothing more for your family to pay at the time of the funeral, except maybe third-party certification fees for cremation, also known as doctor's fees, which some funeral plan providers don't include in their guaranteed funeral plans as they aren't always needed. If they are needed, they would need to be paid for at the time of the funeral by your representative, which could be a family member or the executor of your will, for instance. Your second option is to include a contribution towards the necessary third-party cremation or burial fees. This type of funeral plan is known as a contribution funeral plan. In this instance, the contribution amount will grow until the funeral in line with the consumer price index or whichever mechanism the plan provider chooses. The amount is expected but not guaranteed to cover the necessary third-party fees. The funeral provider will advise your representative of any shortfall at the time of your funeral, which will need to be paid by them or from your estate direct to the funeral provider. Each plan provider sets their own contribution amount, and some funeral plans will allow you to increase the contribution amount. This can be particularly helpful if you live in an area where cremation or burial fees are known to be particularly high. There's a third option too, and which will keep the cost of your funeral plan down, and that is not to include a contribution. A no contribution plan means that your representative will pay the third-party cremation or burial fees at the time your funeral is needed and at the prevailing price.